I find that I have the craziest dreams around the holidays and summer when I'm not at school. Probably because that is when I'm the least social since I'm the biggest unsocial shit ever created. What was this video about again? Right, Weird Dreams Part 2. Cuss, my brain does not know when to stop. Let's start off with one that saved me from possibly failing an exam. Exams in Norway are probably a little different than in other countries, so if there is something that seems off about the exam, then that's why. So one day, I went to bed after a day of studying for the exam on Wednesday. I had already gotten the subject for my exam, but I didn't know what my task was yet. I was a little stressed, so it took some time to fall asleep. But when I did, it wasn't the end of my stress and suffering. Cuss, what was the dream about? I was on the Titanic. But not only me, but my entire family too. And all of us had different roles. Like my dad took the role of Captain Smith. Or my big sis and little bro who were the to lookouts in the crow's nest. And I took the role of the wireless operator. The wireless operator is the person who communicates with other ships and sends messages from passengers back using Morse code. The ship had just struck the iceberg. I didn't see the ship hit the berg, I only felt it. Then my dad said over the intercom, "The Titanic has hit an iceberg and the ship is going under. Load the lifeboats with passengers and lower them away." Remember that this is just a dream, so things are not like how it was in real life. Please don't take this as fact. So I ran up on deck where my cousin was loading the lifeboats. I went to ask my grandpa if everything was okay with the evacuation, and he said yes, but we probably should send a distress call, so that a ship could come and pick up the passengers. I jumped into a lifeboat, but my dad said not to lower this lifeboat yet. I asked why we can't just lower the lifeboats. Then he said that it wasn't safe yet. That gave me some time to think. And I realized that there was no one who would come and rescue the passengers. And somehow I knew that the Marconi wireless radio room was not underwater yet, even though in the dream it was deep into the ship instead of being on the boat deck between the bridge and the grand staircase. So I decided that if I went now, I might just be able to make it down and bring it up on deck to make a distress call. So I jumped out of the lifeboat just as it started to lower away. I ran down a staircase that didn't exist before. I reached the Marconi wireless radio room that had already started filling with water, and took the Marconi wireless radio, which was more like a really old computer. Then I wasted no time with getting out. On my way out, I entered a long hallway that led to the grand staircase, cause the staircase that I used to get down does not exist anymore. So I ran up the staircase, and halfway up the staircase, the first-class grand staircase dome collapsed. But that's fine, cause the Marconi wireless radio was so heavy the water had no chance to wash me away. Dream Logic 101. When I eventually got out on deck, I sat down on a bench and started sending a distress call. Now this is where I really started to get stressed. At this point in the sinking, there was less than 5 minutes left until the Titanic went under. And right as I got ready to send the distress call, the first funnel fell down. And as a Titanic nerd myself, I knew that shit's about to get real. Right after that, the second funnel on the Titanic fell. I had placed myself right at the back, aka stern of the ship, so I knew I had some time to send the call. So I started typing dots and dashes and quickly realized that I had absolutely no clue what I was actually doing. I thought that okay, maybe if I just type SOS, then that will be enough for Carpathia to come and pick us up. So I started typing SOS when I went blank. I could not for the life of me remember if you typed SOS dash 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 or dash 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 dash. I got really stressed cause I didn't want to accidentally send OSO instead of SOS. So I sat there wondering how to spell SOS in Morse code while hundreds of passengers ran past me. I could even see my cousin running past me. Then it happened. The light started to flicker out, and then Now I knew that my time had run out. With no other choice, I pulled out my secret weapon, also known as Google, and searched how to type SOS in Morse code. And Google did not work. Or well, it did, but it didn't give me the answer I was looking for. I tried to think of anything that could help. Then I got an idea. I would wake up and then Google how to type SOS in Morse code, then I would go back to sleep and send the distress call. And somehow I managed to open my eyes through sheer will. And when I woke up in the real world, I realized that I had slept for way too long and my alarm had not gone off. Just then I got a notification on my phone someone had added me on Chat Snap. I took a look at who it was, and I don't think I have ever been faster to add someone back on Chat Snap before. After that they call me and ask where I am. The reason why is we were supposed to meet up at school at 9 in the morning to get our tasks. And I woke up at that exact time. So while they were getting ready to get their tasks, I was home half-dressed wondering how I was gonna get to school. But it worked out in the end. I got to school and got to know my task and did fairly well, if I'm gonna be honest. Although this wasn't the only time I dreamt about the Titanic, but I barely remember this one. I actually had this dream the night the fire alarm went off on the school trip to Oslo last year. That is very fitting for this dream, cause the dream was that instead of going to Oslo, we went on a school trip on the Titanic. And that is all I can remember. Of course the Titanic did sink, but I got in a lifeboat so fast that I was just watching it sink. There was a fight in the boat besides us, but else I can't remember anything. So some time ago we had a school play. What was it about? Well, that's not important now. What is important is that I had a dream about it. And this dream had me question my brain, cause this dream made no sense, but I will try to make it understandable. So the dream started in our local sports hall, which is where we had our school play. So everybody got ready for their roles and tasks, and then we started. We went through the scenes up until the first dance, which for some reason many people that wasn't supposed to dance that dance were there trying to dance the dance. Get the F away, loser. And also the girl that I danced with in that dance had been duplicated. She was both besides me and behind me. Then after that we had lunch. And while we had lunch, all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off and the whole hall began to fill with smoke. And a bunch of people, so-called the down burners, comes busting through the door like if they were the FBI or something for their yearly down burning of the sports hall. What? So we all had to evacuate the building in our costumes. So there we stood. Outside a burning building were 3 girls were dressed up as Barbie. Some other boys were dressed as other character from the Barbie universe. My best friend was carrying a fake tree out on the parking lot, and another boy was carrying a ESA sign. And me and the people how was supposed to dance were standing there in weird shining clothing, with makeup that made us look like Donald Trump. The teachers ordered us to stand in lines ordered by our roles we had in the show. So the actors stood in one line, and the people moving the props in another line, and so on and so forth. And eventually the teachers said that to make up for the troubles, they had brought all of us a vacation to America, and told us to meet up at the dock the next day. And then for some reason we just went down immediately instead of waiting for the next day. Remember that we still are wearing our clothing that we were supposed to wear on the stage. And when we arrived at the dock, you'll never guess what ship was waiting for us. Of course it was the RMS Titanic. And there seems to be a theme with these dreams. And then the dream was basically identical to the last dream, except with weird shining clothing and stage makeup up until we got into a lifeboat. The lifeboat got lowered away and paddled away from the ship. And after like 10 minutes some guy stood on the tip of the boat and asked if he should jump of the lifeboat. And someone said, "Nah, you won't." And someone else said, "I dare you to jump." And then he did, and we never saw him again. And then the ship snapped, and then I woke up.
Now let's move away from all the Titanic dreams and into a nightmare.
Boo! How hard did I scare you? Oh. Anyway, the dream isn't that much of a nightmare, but it did stress me out. So one dream, my family went to a research bunker. A scientist greeted us and let us in. As we walked deeper down, she was jabbering about this creature and that this is a big deal for humanity and science. Meanwhile, I was busy not paying attention. Then she stopped in front of the door to the lab and specifically said not to touch anything, and if anything went wrong in there, to get into the emergency elevator. Important information that definitely went in one ear and out the other. Then she opened the door and we went in. And then she started to explain what her team had done while I got distracted by a big red button that said do not touch. So of course I pressed it. And that let out the creature. I panicked and ran down a hall. It looked and felt like I was in the back rooms, but eventually I found a staircase that led up to the surface. I ran up the staircase and died. But instead of waking up from the dream cuss, I died. My fear of being killed by that thing was enough to make me wake up from the dead in the dream. Now that's dream logic at its best. So after waking up from the dead, I ran to an elevator that took me up to space. Then I looked down and saw the creature looking for me. Then it ran deeper into the warehouse. I took the opportunity and jumped down from the elevator in space. I land and slide under the closing garage door. And then I saw my parents at our car. Then the scientist told me that the creature had the behavior of a tame dog and was as smart as a chicken. Then the dream ended. Now I was planning on including some more dreams, but this video have taken like 2 months of my life, so that have to wait for a possible part 3. So